Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my channel hanafacts. 11 seconds. It doesn't seems like a lot of time, doesn't it? In fact, you have already been watching this video for about 11 seconds. If you are running and I asked you to run 11 seconds faster per mile, could you do it? Probably, because 11 seconds isn't that much. But if you were running a marathon and managed to run 11 seconds faster every mile, do you know how much time you cut off your race? It's almost 5 minutes. And that's the difference between coming in the first and coming in the 100th in the World Athletic Marathon race. In 11 seconds per mile might seems like a relatively small change, and it is, but by the end of the marathon and the difference is numerous. That's the power of a small consistent changes is they seems inconsequential, easy and not even noticeable at first, but they led to big changes in our life. These are atomic habits, small changes that leads to big results. We tend to not notice small changes in our lives because they have a negligible immediate impact. If we are out of shape today, we will still be out of shape tomorrow. We won't gain weight overnight from eating pizza or losing weight overnight by from walking for an hour. But these choices compound into a bigger result over the time. Daily exercise will give you in a better shape over weeks, months and year. And regular diet of a high calories pizza will result in a higher number of a scale. So to become the best version of yourself, we need to learn how to develop good habits that compound over time. In 2018, James clearly published in his book Atomic Habits a guide to develop more effective habits and a behavior. In the book, James teaches us how to change habits in a way that will last. But before we try to develop new effective habits, we have to understand our current habits because there aren't very good or a bad habits. Only effective and ineffective habits depending on what our goals are. So you need to constantly ask yourself, does it this behavior help me become the best type of my person I wish to be? Right now, when we understand the habits that aren't helping us become a best person we want to be, then we can start working to fill those habits. There are three ways we can go about the changing our habits. Outcome changes, which focus on getting a different result. Process change, which focuses on how we go about getting that result. And identify change, which goes even deeper and asks us to change from the inside and outside of the outside in. Outcome changes in what most of us do when we write New Year's resolution. We write down the goals we want to achieve, the things we want to change in our lives, yet often we don't rewrite down the process that we will get us there, and we don't change our identity regarding that goal. But changing your identity is the best way to stick to a new habit. Instead of not eating that entire birthday cake alone because you are not trying to lose weight, you take one slice because you are a healthy person. Once habit become a part of your identity, it's easier to do and doesn't require much effort. In fact, this is how most of our habits are formed from an early age. We imitate the habits of people in our environment, and as we grow older, these habits become a part of our identity. But if you want to change, you have to let go that identity and create a new one for yourself. Doing that isn't easy. Trying to change who you are is going to require a lot of work because our brain like to follow the path of a least resistance. But the good thing is that we can use that to our advantages when trying to build a good habit. Make it as a frictionless as possible. Choose a gym that's on your way home from work. Prepare healthy meals for entire week so it's easier to reheat something for lunch. Then it is to drive to McDonald's. Leave those vitamins you always forget to take right next to the coffee you never forget to drink. In order to find effective habits that work for us, we have to simplify as much as we can until things become automatic. Putting your vitamins next to your coffee makes taking the vitamins frictionless because you are pairing the habits you want to form with the habit you already have. This is what James clearly calls habit stacking, and it's one of the best way to reduce friction when building a new habit. If you are trying to get a better exercising, try doing 5 push-ups the moment you get out of the bed. You know you are going to get out of the bed every morning. So just tack a quick burst of exercise on. This connection can help us finding a new routine, and before we know it, the habit becomes automatic too. Maybe you found a new podcast you are dying to get into. What if instead of listening to it on your drive to work, you saved it for evening walk, for the course you are doing when you are getting home? By stacking the habit with a desirable reward, you get a dopamine hit, which makes it more effective to do. The great thing about the dopamine is that it releases when we anticipate the pleasure. In fact, it's the anticipation that usually pushes us into an action. That's why the donut on the counter and the comfy couch are so appealing because they make us anticipating a moment of a pleasure, a rush of a dopamine. So when you pair the things you don't like as much but need to do with the something that you are already like doing, the dopamine hit can spur you into a action. This might sound like a simple advice, but if you have ever tried to change your habits, you know it's not simple at all. When you are trying to form a new habits, we need to make things easy for ourselves. If you told yourself you were going to read 50 books this year, what would your immediate response to be? Probably one of a fear, that's a lot of books. But if you commit to a 10 pages a day instead, to the prospect of a regular reading time doesn't seem too impossible. This is a difference between being in motion and being in action. When we are in motion, we are suggesting things to ourselves, planning strategies, and learning about how we can get where we want to go. This is important. Being in a motion is a necessary step for our change. But we actually take action, our behavior changes, and we start to make a real progress towards our goal. Thinking about reading 50 books a year is a beautiful idea, but sitting down and taking a 10 pages at a time is much easier step to take. James Clear also gave us a tool called the 2-minute rule. If we break down our new habits into a 2 minute pieces, then we don't feel so overwhelmed by enormity of the task. Instead of clearing the entire kitchen, just do the counter. Instead of tracking an hour workout, do 2 minutes of a score, 2 minutes of a habit motivate us and mentally start the process. And once we are started, it's much easier to continue and ultimately finish. This goes back to the small decision we make the first 11 seconds. We are trying to shave our miles. Making the starting point feel manageable is quick way to trick our brain into doing the most challenging part starting. And if we are making a good bad habit too difficult to tackle it, it slowly fades away. We can create our own obstacles like leaving our phones into a living room when we are going to bed so that we don't look at it as soon as we wake up. These kind of a commitments are international action we take to make it harder to give into a easy, sometimes ineffective old habits. And because we are human, we also want these new habits to satisfying, which is sometimes the hardest part. The reason we don't do these habits already is that they seem daunting and unnatural. They don't immediately offer us the reward we might find other older habits. So it's important we find way to get that satisfaction no matter how small. Have you ever written down your workouts or made a list of a food you eat in a day? This kind of a tracking gives us the opportunity to celebrate small wins. If we are trying to lose weights or get healthier, seeing that we resist sugary treats for an entire week might feeling really good. That pleasure teaches the brain that current behavior is worth repeating. You can do this type of a tracking with a simple pen and a paper, making each day you complete the habit or logging your progress with more detail. It gives you a way to feel accountable and excited about the counting. If you are a spreadsheet wizard, this information can be tracked digitally. It might help you find trends in your habits and give you way to manipulate your data. Some apps like a Habitica and Strides can also do the tracking for you. Tracking in whatever form works for you can help us clearly and distorted view of a good or a bad habit we are doing on our path towards better habits. When we have evidence in front of us, we are less likely to lie to ourselves. The tracking itself can become a reward that reminds us the importance of a journey, not the destination. So focus on your current trajectory rather than the result you are craving. Satisfaction isn't just at the end of the road. If you save a little money each month, the result may be seem astronomical at first. But you know that by the end of the year you will see a big improvement in your saving account. And look, we all break down. We will slip up even when you are on a roll. But James Clear gives us a simple rule to live by when we are on this journey. Never miss twice. Missing once in an accident, but missing twice is the start of a new habit. So we have to just keep going and not judge ourselves for being human. One way to keep things interesting is to look for a task that you are right on the edge of our current abilities. Human brains love challenges actually, but only in the optimal zone of a difficulty. If you are on a roll with your new habits, try turning it up to a notch and keep your brain interested in it. Many times, boredom is a bigger threat to a success than the failure. We are all unique in how our habit forming will affect us. What seems boring to a person will seem the best, most interesting challenges ever to other. We need to build habits that suits us, not ones that suits everyone else. So we can ask ourselves some question like what feels fun for me but is work for others? What makes me lose track of my time? Where do I get a greater return than the average person? And what comes naturally to me? We are more successful in adopting new habits when we focus on fulfilling our own potential instead of comparing our progress to someone else. People are constantly changing. Thinking back who you are were 5 years ago, 10 years ago as a child, you were different and therefore how you approach life and growth will also be different. As we find new, more effective habits, we can expect the journey to the end. Can we aspire to become at least 1% better every so often instead of remaining static? That's how you find real long term growth. Our habits shift and adjust to our future needs. We are not defined by just one habit. Just because of you work out for an hour a day doesn't mean there are a lot of other aspects of our your personality. If that was the defining characteristic, then for God forbid you get sick and find for yourself without the time or a place to exercise for a day. If one habit is the end of the game and it's get interrupted, then we just find ourselves demotivated and angry. And who wants that? So never stop making improvement. Mastering a habit doesn't mean it's the end. We might get the great shape, but we get injured. At that point, we need the new form, new habits to recover and heal. In the end, habits are important, but they are not everything. If we become so obsessed with the picking apart our every move and decision, we are missing a lot what is already good. All of us can change our habit to be healthier, cleaner, and more efficient. Watch this video next to find out how to conquer a New Year resolution stoic. Have a good day. Allah Hafiz.